I pay homage to the teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. I pay homage to Manjushri, the embodiment of wisdom and courage. I pay homage to the great kind gurus of the lineage, the unsurpassed, profound, and subtle Dharma, rare in eons. Now I see, hear, and receive it. May I understand the true meaning of the Tathagata in order to liberate all sentient beings everywhere throughout all realms and universes. Please, with the deepest compassion and utmost sincerity, give rise to the unsurpassed, most supreme, and truly incomparable bodhicitta. Every time you listen to the Dharma, you must always remember, with mindfulness and attention, that the Buddha Dharma is extremely rare and difficult to encounter in millions of eons. Therefore, with the blessings of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, we must understand the Tathagata's genuine and profound intent. This is the first thing you should keep in mind, to remember. Secondly, you should remember that when you listen to this teaching, it is not for some personal goal in this life, nor for happiness in future lives, or for any other reason. It is to liberate boundless and limitless sentient beings. Such an intention must arise within you. This is what is called bodhicitta. It is to ultimately and truly free sentient beings from the cycle of birth and death, and to genuinely help them attain the vast, ocean-like merits of the Dharma. This is something important that we must remember every single time, always. Those of superior mental capacities will, with great care and attention, think of this intention right from the very first moment they leave home to attend the teaching. For those of middling faculties, when they hear the sound of the conch or the drum signaling the start of the teaching, for those of lesser faculties, when the teacher reminds everyone to give rise to bodhicitta, they must remember, I am attending this teaching for the benefit of all sentient beings. If we keep practicing in this way every time, over time, as time goes on, it will gradually and naturally become much easier for us to give rise to bodhicitta. After generating bodhicitta in this way, as we have discussed earlier, the 18 distinct types of leisures and endowments that are found in a human life are extremely rare. And so, we should take the time to carefully and thoroughly examine them in detail. If we truly possess such leisures and endowments, we must give rise to a sense of joy. If we do not possess them, we should do everything possible to cultivate them within our own mind stream. We must think in this way very carefully. If we truly possess all 18 types of leisures and endowments mentioned above, and have the opportunity to practice the Dharma, then living in this world as a human being truly, undeniably, has profound and far-reaching significance for each and every one of us. As stated in the Madhyama Collection treatise, by relying on the light of the authentic Dharma, one comes to understand the 18 leisures and endowments, and only by genuinely and sincerely practicing the Dharma does a human life truly become meaningful and significant. This means that by relying on the light of the Buddha's authentic Dharma, if in this lifetime one can truly understand the 18 types of leisures and endowments, and then genuinely, not just verbally or superficially, but truly practice the Buddha's teachings and realize the Dharma, it is only under these circumstances that this person's human life can be said to possess a truly great and lasting significance, a significance that is both meaningful in everyday life among all sentient beings in the world. Very few beings actually obtain a human body when you look at all sentient beings. For those with a human body, in every city across the east, west, south, and north, there are millions of people, but among all such large crowds of people, those who possess the causes and conditions to practice the Dharma are also very few. And among Dharma practitioners, if you examine how many truly possess all 18 types of leisures and endowments, that's why it is essential to consistently, thoroughly, and carefully practice the preliminaries well. If the preliminaries are not practiced properly, it is indeed very difficult to practice any other Dharma. So we shouldn't rush to seek advanced teachings. We must first lay a solid foundation with the preliminaries. This basic practice can't be built in a day or two, or even a year or two. It requires repeated familiarization over a long period of time to truly realize its intended purpose. When we first began studying, many teachers emphasized the importance of the preliminaries. At that particular time, our understanding of the situation was not very deep or thorough. We were only just beginning to realize the complexities involved, and our knowledge was still quite limited and incomplete. But now, because we have been exposed to the Dharma for quite a bit longer, as time has gone by, during this process, we've actually encountered and met quite a lot of different people as well. Many people, for a variety of different reasons, have completely and utterly failed on their spiritual journey, unfortunately, giving up halfway through. In the middle, when we look for the reasons, we ultimately realize it's because they didn't establish a solid foundation in the preliminaries. Therefore, we really shouldn't spend too little time on our practice. If the time is too short, indeed, the Dharma is so profound, and it's not something that can be easily or quickly mastered for most people. I often think, even with a really worldly field of study these days, if you really want to study it well, it might actually take around 20 to 30 years, or even longer, to achieve this nowadays. And that's just to obtain the highest academic degree in the world. Or to fully master a worldly discipline, it takes that much time. Buddhism, on the other hand, is an extremely profound and deeply meaningful form of knowledge. For its realization to truly manifest in your own mind stream, or to fully and completely understand the content and teachings of Buddhism, of course, requires an exceptionally long period of time. Indeed, for example, in worldly schools that we are all familiar with, if we take a closer look at the current educational curriculum as it stands today, it might, in fact, take somewhere around 30 years, which is quite a long time. I think starting from kindergarten, as you may know, kindergarten itself typically lasts for about 3 full years, with lower, middle, and upper classes. And in some places, there's also, for example, a preschool class sometimes. After finishing preschool, there are 6 years of elementary school, so that's almost 10 years already. After 6 years of elementary school comes middle school, which in some places lasts 2, 3, or even 4 years. Then there's high school for 2 to 3 years, then university. An undergraduate degree takes 3 to 5 years. And if you pursue a graduate degree, that's another 2 to 3 years. After completing the earliest stages of higher education, such as earning an undergraduate degree and possibly a master's degree, pursuing a PhD involves dedicating an additional 3 to 4 years to advanced. Honestly, to obtain a relatively complete and well-rounded education or an officially recognized diploma in the world today, especially in modern society, it really does take that long to study. Only after all of that, and only after such dedication and effort, can you genuinely and truly be considered an intellectual. But in Buddhism, many lay practitioners and even some monastics nowadays in particular think that just getting a certificate or taking refuge is enough. They haven't studied at all. But that's actually not the case. Buddhism goes far beyond worldly knowledge. Worldly knowledge, many people simply need to take the time to study and understand it. And honestly, it's really not all that difficult at all. Whether it's getting a PhD, a master's, or a bachelor's degree, these aren't really particularly hard to achieve. Many of the graduate and doctoral students in our institute, once they start studying Buddhist logic or Madhyamaka philosophy, feel lost, confused. When he first came, they proudly show their doctorate and graduate certificates. But after studying Buddhist logic, they won't look at their own certificates. They can't present their reasoning to others. Reasoning is difficult. So authentic and true Buddhist knowledge, as understood by practitioners, truly everyone shouldn't think it's something very simple. Precisely because of this, the Buddha's immaculate wisdom, renowned for its extraordinary clarity, depth, and purity, stands as a truly admirable quality that inspires deep respect and sincere admiration. In Nagarjuna Bodhisattva's praise of Prajnaparamita, I recall a line that says the mother of wisdom is the domain of those without faults. For those whose minds are filled with afflictive thoughts like greed, anger, and ignorance, it is very difficult for such ordinary people to comprehend what Buddhism teaches. The truly genuine and undoubtedly the one and only highest state. If in our daily lives our worldly minds become completely calm and are no longer disturbed by all kinds of external attachments and desires, if we have already removed the obstacles in our own mind and attained the highest wisdom, only then can we truly enter the selfless state that Buddhism pursues. Nowadays, even the academic world, in fact, highly acknowledges and recognizes this kind of knowledge. A year or two ago, there was a very notable, well-known, and famous figure in the public eye who wrote a book whose main content was about Buddhism's state of selflessness and emptiness, which are key ideas in Buddhist philosophy. In this context, selflessness means the absence of he simply used clear, contemporary, everyday language to explain it in a more accessible way. His book is called The World of the Mind. It's said that later on, many people in over 100 different countries were actively engaged in studying it, and it received exceptionally high and very enthusiastic praise. Why is that? Well, it's because the kind of selflessness he talked about, the very selflessness he described so clearly, most of the principles he described are highly consistent with Buddhist teachings. Later, during the research process, many Buddhists discovered he was always extremely careful to make sure that every teaching, explanation, and method he used was fully consistent with the established doctrines and core beliefs of Buddhism. This meant that he paid close attention to the authenticity and integrity of his teachings, ensuring that I've heard that many Westerners, especially these days, are becoming increasingly confident in Buddhist teachings. However, nowadays, quite a number of people in the East have not experienced the most profound Buddhist teachings on emptiness and selflessness. As a result, it is very difficult for them to truly understand. Therefore, on the one hand, we really need to actively and sincerely seek out and pursue teachings that truly and genuinely focus on authentic practice and deep realization. This is indeed very important. If we only engage in theoretical or academic research, it is extremely difficult to overcome our own afflictions in this short life. Therefore, teachings like the preliminary practices are essential, and no matter who you are, you must absolutely take them seriously. Some time ago, I met a practitioner from our institute. She is not at the institute now, but over many years, I feel she has been very consistently and committed in studying the Dharma. She said, for more than 10 years, the way of the bodhisattva, the preliminary practices, and the Guhya Garbha Tantra have never left my side. Her Dharma texts were worn and darkened. So I truly feel that once a person genuinely receives some wonderful blessings and the profound power of the Dharma, they really don't want to be separated from these Dharma texts. The benefits one gains from them are beyond what ordinary words can describe. So especially, I sincerely hope that everyone will develop faith in the profound teachings and wisdom of Guru Padmasambhava. If you develop faith, your own mind stream will receive truly powerful blessings. Nowadays, many Westerners have even greater faith in the teachings of Guru Padmasambhava. Whenever Guru Padmasambhava is mentioned, in any context, many people over time gradually develop truly tremendous faith. The reason for this, it is generally believed, is said to be related to the teachings on the Bardo from earlier times. It was translated into English around 1920s. From that time on, it caused a sensation in the West. Later, the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying also drew much of its teachings from the words of Guru Padmasambhava. So now, truly, in the hearts of many people, they have genuinely and most certainly received the authentic benefits of the secret teachings. Currently, some lay practitioners in China, as well as some monastics in certain temples, still have not yet truly experienced the extraordinary and remarkable blessings of Guru Rinpoche. Personally, since I was a child, I have recited prayers every day, making it a daily routine that brought me comfort and reassurance. Even if I had a nightmare or woke up feeling scared during the night, or when I was herding yaks and encountered jackals or tigers on the road, at those times I would start praying quietly to myself, and I truly have never, ever stopped doing so up to now. I hope that many Dharma friends here today in this degenerate age, when indeed demonic obstacles and adverse conditions are rampant and extremely fierce, at such times, it is not that the blessings of other Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are ineffective. They are extremely extraordinary. However, Guru Rinpoche, because he has a special connection with the degenerate age, especially when the wild, unpredictable winds and turbulent waves of the degenerate era and all kinds of adverse, challenging conditions inevitably arise, through the power of his aspirations and blessings, all obstacles will completely disappear. When great bodhisattvas like Bodhisattva Vajrasattva came to Tibet to spread the Dharma, they also encountered all kinds of obstacles from both humans and non-humans. At that time, in terms of appearances, the only way to dispel all obstacles was to rely on the power of Guru Padmasambhava. So if there's an opportunity in the future, I also very much hope to explain the 7 Vajra lines of Guru Padmasambhava, for which Mipham Rinpoche has a special commentary explaining them by integrating the generation stage, completion stage, and Dzogchen practices. In the past, when our precious teacher, Jigme Phuntsok, went to India in 1990, when he was invited by the Nalanda Advanced Buddhist Institute in South India, at that time the Dharma King also transmitted these teachings to them. When our precious teacher, the Dharma King, went to Mount Wutai, he also transmitted them to us. However, the content is quite extensive and detailed, as you can see, perhaps in a year or two, if the conditions are right. I would like to talk to everyone about the importance of the 7-line prayer. At the same time, with one voice altogether, if Buddhists from all nations around the world, with sincere devotion, pray to Guru Padmasambhava in this degenerate age that we live in nowadays, in these times, all kinds of obstacles to spreading the Dharma and to individual practice can all be dispelled. Moreover, in fact, the Dharma may continue to persist and remain in the world as a whole. Otherwise, in the present day and age, Buddhism is, in the modern world, facing more and more challenges in many different respects. There are many, many people who do not believe in Buddhism nowadays. And some even intentionally and deliberately create obstacles for Buddhism. There are also followers of other religions from various backgrounds who wish to take over all the space that Buddhism occupies. There are indeed such views and intentions. According to various reports from the West, it is said that in another 50 years, the whole of China may become a country that believes in Christianity. Many people are simply making such predictions. Of course, their statements may just be estimates, but perhaps there are indeed some reasons and grounds for them, because now the number of Christians is increasing by several million or even tens of millions every single year around the world. Is there a similar trend of more and more people taking refuge in Buddhism? In recent years, this trend has not been very obvious, unlike with other religions. Many Buddhists only focus on their own practice and do not consider at all, in any way, how Buddhism can be spread into the hearts and minds of everyone. In the future, by what means will the Dharma continue to exist in this world? Passed down generations? There are very few people who consistently make aspirations and plans in this regard on a regular basis. There are indeed some truly eminent monks and highly respected great masters who do this kind of thing, but not many overall. Many eminent monks and great masters seek alms to build a monastery for themselves in a remote mountain valley and make it extremely magnificent. That is also a kind of aspiration, and we rejoice in it. But even more important is that such a precious, wish-fulfilling jewel as the Dharma should be spread ever more widely throughout the world, reaching people of all backgrounds and cultures. Every Buddhist should take on this responsibility. Therefore, whenever we happen to meet anyone, or when the right conditions naturally arise, perhaps we should share some of Buddhism's most extraordinary teachings, gradually pass them on to others and allow others to accept them. Even if I have come into this world, I should understand the preciousness of a human life endowed with leisure and opportunity. Then, if many people around me do not possess such a precious human life, I should do my utmost to help these people receive the wish-fulfilling jewel of the Dharma. At the same time, let them truly experience the inconceivable and subtle teachings of Buddhism. I believe each of us should truly take on this responsibility. Next, today, as planned, we will continue discussing the preciousness of human life. Furthermore, the omniscient Longchen Rabjam in the Seven Treasuries, specifically in the treatise called The Wish-Fulfilling Treasury, also explains the 8 types of lack of leisure from temporary causes and 8 from severed mental connections. There are 16 types of lack of leisure. The earlier ones are generally recognized in most scriptures and treatises. Additionally, Longchen Rabjam, these are simply not explicitly mentioned in other treatises and scriptures. These were gradually revealed by him through his profound wisdom and deep, abiding compassion. In the Wish-Fulfilling Treasury, he also discusses the 16 types of lack of leisure. It is equally crucial not to be swayed by these adverse conditions. If one truly wishes to practice the Dharma sincerely and wholeheartedly, it is best not to allow oneself to be influenced or swayed in any way by these 16 adverse conditions, as doing so can hinder genuine spiritual progress. This is extremely important. We need to carefully and thoroughly examine what was mentioned above. 18 conditions for Dharma practice are as follows. Leisure and endowment, these 18 conditions, whether or not all 18 are present. See whether you are being controlled by these adverse conditions. If you are controlled by these adverse conditions, then just as Khenpo Sodargye explains in the preliminary practice memo, a person has 18 sheep. In a quiet, grassy meadow, there's a flock of 18 sheep peacefully grazing together. Suddenly, a wolf appears and manages to catch and eat one of the sheep. After this happens, the number of sheep in the meadow is reduced, so now only 17 sheep remain. If another one from the original total is eaten, then there will be just 16 remaining in the group. This shows how if in the end all are eaten, then this person has no sheep left. Through this analysis and analogy, we also understand that the 18 conditions for practicing the Dharma, we should see if we have them. If one is missing, perhaps it's not a big problem. But if that one is very important, then all the other conditions may become irrelevant. This is possible. For example, if you yourself have not personally entered the Dharma, even if all the other conditions are present, there's absolutely nothing you can do. So we must very carefully observe our own mental continuum to see whether we truly possess the Dharma. But if we do not fully understand these principles, then on the surface, we may appear to be Buddhists, people who believe in Buddhism, but in reality, we have no idea at all. We might even at times think of ourselves, perhaps quite justifiably, as truly remarkable and accomplished practitioners, believing we were sent down from Pure Land of ultimate bliss or lotus realm, that we have come to this world and that our realization and practice are outstanding. Some people may have this kind of arrogance. That's why studying and practicing the Dharma is extremely important. This kind of practice should be learned step by step. It's not about leaping straight to the highest level in one go. That is absolutely, definitely unreasonable in any way. What does the Wish-Fulfilling Treasury say? In the verses, the 16 kinds of leisurelessness are described as follows. Gripped demons of 5 poisons and ignorance, negative karma surges like sea by laziness, relying on others, fearing false dharma thieves, are 8 leisureless conditions due to temporary causes. This is the verse describing the 8 leisureless conditions due to temporary causes. Then it goes on to discuss the 8 so-called leisureless conditions, which arise due to severed connections in the mind. Tightly bound by manifest, extremely inferior tendencies, not weary of samsara and lacking a little faith. The mind is away from the Dharma when one commits evil deeds, violating the Vinaya Samaya. The 8 leisureless conditions due to severed mental connections. Having given a general overview of these 2 types of 8 leisureless conditions, the text will now explain them to us one by one. As we go through these explanations, we must be sure to understand the following. What are the 8 leisureless conditions, specifically those arising from temporary circumstances? Which situations exactly fall under this category? How can we eliminate them? How do we counteract them? We should understand these from 3 perspectives. First, what are temporary circumstances?
In our process of practice, whether temporarily, occasionally, or even frequently, at different times, we often encounter obstacles to our practice. For example, these obstacles may not necessarily arise or come up today, but they could very well possibly appear tomorrow. There may be no such obstacles this year, but they might appear unexpectedly at some point next year. Or perhaps these obstacles haven't appeared in the past few years, but it's quite possible that they will arise a few years from now, perhaps in the foreseeable future. Also, from a shorter time perspective, looking at it, I may not face these obstacles this morning, but they could easily arise in the afternoon. Or when I begin a practice session, there may be no obstacles at first, but by the time I finish the session, obstacles may very well arise. So at any time and in any place, these obstacles can come and trouble you, cutting off your causes or opportunities for practice. This is frightening. Right now, many people, including many practitioners here in this assembly hall, each of them thinks to themselves, I want to become a great practitioner. Right now, my mind is completely capable, and I really have no problem dealing with afflictions. I am sure I will become an excellent practitioner. Maybe everyone has this kind of confidence, but it's hard to say for sure. After some time, when certain adverse conditions arise, even if you really want to stay in such a Buddhist community environment for a while, you might not be able to remain there. So these kinds of obstacles, which might include unexpected setbacks or sudden difficulties, can actually happen quite frequently in everyday situations. Therefore, we must always be mindful of these adverse conditions and constantly observe ourselves. For example, if we have a wish-fulfilling jewel, we should often check, has my wish-fulfilling jewel been stolen or taken away by someone else? We must always pay attention to this. In the same way, with our precious human life endowed with leisure and opportunity, we should be genuinely concerned about whether these adverse and unfavorable conditions might suddenly take it away or even sever our virtuous roots. If we truly understand all the profound and important principles that have been carefully mentioned above, then it will not be easy for these adverse conditions to control us. Many practitioners in the past, because they fully understood which circumstances were obstacles and which were benefits, were always able to guard their sense faculties with right awareness and mindfulness. So no matter what kind of obstacles, difficulties, or hindrances he happened to encounter in his practice, they were never bound in any way by these obstacles and were able to consistently and successfully persevere from beginning to end. This is closely related to what we just discussed. So everyone here should analyze this. I reflect on it myself. The wisdom of the Venerable Wu Keguang is without a doubt indeed truly great and most exceptionally profound, because when he explains these principles to us so clearly, anyone who is sincere will be mindful and regularly observe their mind. Once you encounter adverse conditions yourself, you'll realize, oh, right now I am being controlled by these obstacles and negative influences. You will definitely think, I must break free from all of these difficult, challenging, and negative circumstances that surround me. This is about the 8 distinct types of leisureliness that specifically arise as a result of temporary conditions. In total, there are 8 of these particular types. So how do we counteract them? At that time, we should take a look at the Preliminary Practice Memorandum. As I recall, in the Preliminary Practice Memorandum, there are, as described, antidotes for each type of adverse condition. Here, it mentions the first one, the coarseness of the 5 poisons. So, what does the coarseness of the 5 poisons mean? Those who harbor deep-seated hatred toward enemies and are deeply attached and possessive toward loved ones are people affected by the 5 poisons. Although they may intend to practice the true Dharma, but most of the time, they are controlled by the powerful force of the 5 poisons within their own mental continuum, and thus are unable to genuinely and fully practice the Dharma in their daily lives. That is to say, among us practitioners, as we might say, there are indeed some people whom we refer to as being deeply afflicted by defilements. They themselves also think, I'm such a bad person. I'm deeply afflicted by defilements. For people like this, it is still difficult. It's hard for them to succeed in practice. because in fact, their afflictions are somewhat different from those of others. When their anger arises, it often becomes very hard to control. Even if several people try to restrain them, it's still very difficult. Whatever is in front of them, be it a pot, a bowl, or a teacup, they'll destroy anything in their way. Even windows are no match for them. There is truly nothing that can stand in their way or prevent them from getting through, not even barriers like glass or... It's truly frightening. There's really no difference from a terrorist. This is because their anger is so intense. And if their greed is very strong, then when greed arises, they feel no shame, no sense of disgrace. No teacher can completely suppress their own greed, no matter how hard they try. Even the Dharma is helpless. Once this kind of greed arises, there's nothing that can be done, whether it's toward their loved ones or material possessions. Therefore, a Sangha Bodhisattva said the following words: attachment to loved ones is like boiling water. Anger toward enemies is like a raging fire. It's just as described here in the description. When greed arises, it's like boiling water, impossible to control, wild and uncontrollable. When anger suddenly appears, it's like a blazing fire. It's hard to control. And then there are other things like arrogance and jealousy. The 5 poisons and afflictions are extremely intense in such people, and occasionally it's like a sudden flash of lightning appearing in the very middle of the night. Occasionally, when they're in a slightly better mood and their greed and anger subside, they want to practice diligently as if not the same person who lost their temper yesterday, not like the frightening person they were yesterday. Today, for just a moment, they want to do a bit of practice. But because, generally speaking, most of the time, the afflictions in their mental continuum are extremely strong, their original intention, the very thought or motivation that first sparked their actions, can truly be said to flash by in an instant, disappearing almost as soon as it appears, leaving barely a trace in their minds before it is gone. And it disappears right away. So most of the time, they are completely controlled by various afflictions. That's why sometimes when I see some people who aspire to develop bodhicitta, I have high hopes for them. When they're in a good mood and their afflictions have subsided, they say, I want to cultivate good intentions, do this and that, and it sounds nice. I believe them, yes, you can develop bodhicitta. But after a while, it doesn't work out again. If it happened just once, that would be fine. If someone makes a mistake once, we can all forgive that. But if they keep making the same mistakes over and over, today it happens, and tomorrow it happens again. Today, they're overcome by anger, tomorrow by greed. Then how can they develop good intention? They can't even handle their own problems. Truly, for people who are deeply troubled by afflictions, it's very hard to control themselves because the afflictions in their mental continuum are, quite honestly, just too strong. This may also be related to karma from past lives, making it impossible to overcome in this life. For various reasons, for such a person to achieve complete success in their practice or to reach a very perfect accomplishment is very difficult. Some people, for example, may not be very efficient at work, or their ability to generate good intentions may not be strong, but because their afflictions are not really very heavy, even if they feel anger, they won't lose their temper that badly. But some people are truly frightening. They're just not like ordinary people. When they lose their temper, from then, it's possible for the rest of someone's life, it will be very hard to forget the look on that person's face at that time. This person can turn into such a wrathful Vajra. Let alone us human 7 demons would definitely flee at the very sight of them. No one would dare approach. Just seeing this person, forever, his face with every detail so vivid and clear, appears again and again in my mind. And you'll never be able to forget it. Some people are definitely like this. So for people whose afflictions are strong, it is extremely, extremely difficult for them to practice or to truly benefit others. If we want to counteract these afflictions in our lives, the very first thing that you absolutely should do is to definitely make use of, as is generally taught in the scriptures, for those with strong attachment, the practice of impurity contemplation, as explained in texts like the Jewel Garland, to carefully counteract by analyzing various teachings on impermanence and fundamental selflessness. For those with strong anger, gently cultivate compassion, or, as described in the chapter on patience in the Bodhikaryavatra, observe and carefully analyze in this way to counteract it. Or, if ignorance is more severe, counteract or neutralize it, such as through the teachings on dependent origination. Or perhaps, for instance, when these afflictions first begin to arise and make themselves known, immediately eradicate them through mindfulness, awareness, and antidotes. When the afflictions like attachment are, uproot them. This is bodhisattva conduct. We often talk of it this way too. When attachment arises in your mind, think, oh, if I don't eliminate it now, this kind of affliction will destroy all the roots of virtue for myself and others. Then immediately cut it off. When anger arises in you, immediately use the sword of mindfulness and awareness to eradicate it. This particular method of practice, in my honest opinion, is truly and exceptionally excellent. It stands out as an outstanding approach. Some people used to be deeply troubled by afflictions, but later, relying on the many blessings of the Dharma, they completely became a different person. For example, when he was in society before, he was relentlessly and constantly driven by greed and was quite well known for it by his peers and those around him. He himself also felt that back then, living every day with such desire, for him, he couldn't be without it, even for an instant. But later, because his mind merged with the Dharma, and after truly gaining deep understanding of many profound teachings in Buddhism, he suddenly realized that all of his previous actions and behaviors were, in fact, extremely ugly, inappropriate, and completely unreasonable. After correcting his own faults in this way, and reflecting on his actions, he completely entered the right path. There are such cases. Some people were once very hot-tempered, getting into fights daily, always carrying several sharp, long knives on them, usually every single day, like the well-known Geshe Ben Kungyal. But later, after entering the Buddhist path and cultivating great loving-kindness and compassion, in the end, even if his own body was being struck by others, he would not really feel even a moment of anger. The main reason is that everyone's karmic conditions for practice are different. For some people, as soon as they start practicing a certain Dharma, it immediately resonates with them. It's like some patients who are very seriously ill when the doctor prescribes medicine. It takes effect right away, producing instant results. And from then on, the illness is completely cured. Some people's afflictions, for example, can be immediately subdued through the Dharma. Others will say, this person has changed much. He wasn't like this before. He used to be very greedy. He used to have a really strong temper. There are all kinds of things people say. But later, everyone can see his practice is truly excellent. This does happen. So if we can subdue our afflictions, it is possible to do so. Why? Because subduing them aligns with our true mind and the actual reality. So it is possible to counteract them. This is the first point. Everyone knows about the adverse conditions just mentioned. If your afflictions are truly deep and heavy, your opportunities and connections for practice will be cut off. This must definitely be kept in mind. Second is ignorance and lack of wisdom. This kind of ignorance refers to people who are utterly devoid of wisdom and extremely foolish. Though they have entered the Buddhist path, they are unable to comprehend even a single phrase or meaning of the true Dharma. They lack karma to hear or practice the teachings. These are truly and extremely foolish people, individuals who are completely lacking without even the faintest glimmer or slightest trace of wisdom. They are as dull as Yak's extremely ignorant people. Even though such people have already taken refuge in Buddhism, become monastics, or received lay precepts, when they encounter the Dharma, they do not understand a single bit of what they hear. They are completely unable to truly grasp or comprehend any of the meanings of the teachings that they so carefully contemplate. The Dharma they practice, they cannot truly sense even the slightest of its profound meaning. The Dharma and their own mental continuum always remain completely disconnected from each other. They are fundamentally unable to experience the profound and rich taste of Buddhism, so such people have no opportunity for listening, contemplating, or practicing the teachings. There really are, in fact, people in the world like this are just too ignorant to even realize it. Let alone the profound teachings of Madhyamaka or Dzogchen. Regarding a basic teaching like the rarity of human rebirth, as soon as the teaching is over, they've already forgotten everything and understand nothing. They are completely ignorant even of the most basic Dharma principles. It's truly pitiable. On the surface, these people appear to be ordinary human beings, but in reality, whether it's the teaching on the rarity of human rebirth or the various causes and specific conditions that are necessary for practicing and engaging in the entire Dharma, one could say they truly have none of these. Because of this, it is actually very difficult for them to truly form a genuine connection with the Dharma in this very life, right now. Of course, there are rare exceptions like Chudapanthaka. At first, he was very ignorant, but later on, little by little, he attained enlightenment through extraordinary causes and conditions. Or relying on their own faith, some people also come to understand the Dharmasuk people do exist. So for people who are this ignorant, what steps can they take? Or what actions can they follow in order to overcome and dispel the ignorance that they themselves possess? According to these teachings, the first step is definitely to confess and repent. Some people say, I'm just too ignorant. What should I do? I cannot remember anything. When I take exams, I spend a long time memorizing, but then I forget everything. What should I do about that? This is because in past lives, you didn't listen, contemplate, or practice the Dharma well. So in this very life, right here and now, you, as it turns out, end up being this ignorant. On one hand, you must pray to the wisdom deities. For example, the 8 great bodhisattvas each have their own unique blessings. Manjushri Bodhisattva embodies wisdom itself. Therefore, the ignorant people often pray and chant his name. If you recite his mantra, then lifetime after lifetime, you will never ever be separated from the radiant light of wisdom. So I remember in the past, our precious teacher, Jigme Phuntsuk, also required all his disciples who took refuge in him, at the very least without exception. For some time, the Guru said we should recite the Manjushri mantra 100 million times. At that time, he emphasized that those who truly possess wisdom in this very life, their wisdom will continue to increase more and more. For those who lack true wisdom, even over countless lifetimes, in the end, they will eventually become wise. Indeed, this is truly necessary. If, in this very life, we do not listen, contemplate, or seek knowledge properly, then even over, for example, countless lifetimes, it will be very difficult to encounter such radiant wisdom of the Dharma. Some foolish people say, anyway, I'm too stupid. Whether I listen or not, it's the same. I might as well not attend the teachings. I'm just too stupid. According to the meaning of Sakya Pandita, if you lack wisdom, you should be even more diligent. Fools, because they lack wisdom, are unwilling to seek knowledge. If one observes carefully, it is because of lack of wisdom that fools should study even more diligently. In other words, because fools lack wisdom. Even though they are unwilling to pursue learning, if we use wisdom to examine this carefully and thoroughly, we see that these foolish people have become fools precisely because they lack wisdom. So now they should be even more diligent and put in even more effort. Because their wisdom is not high, they should now listen, contemplate, and study even more earnestly. Many people in the world today have it backwards. I don't have wisdom, so I simply don't want to listen. But that's not how it should be. If I lack wisdom, I should listen even more. If I don't have money, I still need to go earn it. If you have money, you don't need to go earn more, because someone who is already wealthy doesn't need to earn money. So we must understand this clearly without any confusion or doubt at all. If you didn't listen and learn in your past life, you become a fool in this life. It is precisely because you did not truly seek out knowledge and understanding in your previous life that you now end up being a fool for your entire life, unable to change your fate. Because I am genuinely afraid that I might become uninformed and unaware in the future, I will make sure to study very hard, even if this life is extremely difficult for me. So, no matter how truly hard things get in this life, we must be thoroughly diligent and dedicated in seeking knowledge in our efforts at every opportunity to learn and grow. Why is that? It's because we're worried or afraid of becoming fools again, possibly in the future. Those who are not very wise must make a real effort to seek the Dharma in this life. Why? Because if I don't study and learn well now, I'll end up as a fool again in my next life. Truly, a human life is indeed very hard to come by. We should always keep this in mind. In this life, we have a precious opportunity. But if we don't manage to create truly favorable and good conditions now, we simply won't have them in the future. At that time, even if we regret it, there will be nothing we can do. Therefore, when it comes to overcoming ignorance, we must, as individuals and as a society, make even greater efforts. The third point is currently, at this moment, being controlled by demons, by the demonic forces. If we are influenced by demonic teachers who promote wrong views and actions, then our minds will turn to the wrong path and go against the true Dharma. The third point is being controlled by demons, meaning if we are influenced by those who promote no past or future life, no law of cause and effect, and all sorts of worldly wrong views, such as misguided beliefs and harmful perspectives, along with wrong actions like deceitful or harmful behavior, these are the marks of demonic teachers, who on the surface may appear to be monastics or to be spreading the Dharma, or even promoting other religions. These all fall under category of demonic teachers. If we are influenced by such demonic teachers, our mental continuum will be completely controlled by heretical paths or evil external influences. In the end, one will not be able to enter the true path of liberation, but will instead go astray. This will lead one to go against the teachings of the Buddha, who is filled with great compassion, which is indeed truly pitiable and unfortunate. Nowadays, in this world, there are many who are manipulated by demons and have already been influenced by evil teachers with wrong knowledge and wrong views. As a result, it has become quite common for many people to think highly of themselves, often believing that their own talents and qualities are especially impressive or worthy of admiration, believing that their own practice or understanding is quite good. Yet they have not realized the truth. But in reality, they're actually not even remotely close to the genuine and true teachings of Buddhism. Not at all. They have already been influenced by wrong paths or demonic knowledge. There are quite a lot of such people, and it is truly pitiful. It may even be quite difficult to really persuade them. In order to effectively address this issue, it is essential that we begin by conducting a thorough and careful examination of the teacher, paying close attention to does the teacher truly possess the qualities of the Dharma? Are they a demonic teacher or a virtuous teacher? If they are a virtuous teacher, you should develop a joyful mind and rely on them with the three kinds of joy. If they are a demonic teacher, you must not approach them in the first place. This is very important indeed. Of course, in this degenerate age, people's behavior is all kinds of things. They display supernatural powers, miracles, and all sorts of extraordinary appearances. Because of this, it becomes very difficult to discern, at that time, see whether they possess bodhicitta or not. If you genuinely have bodhicitta, you can rely on. If they do not possess bodhicitta, then no matter how profound the Dharma they teach, you should not approach them. Remember that Patrul Rinpoche once said, as mentioned in the Key to the Profound Instructions, those who lack the essential pith instructions of bodhicitta, in this degenerate age, many people still boast of being so-called Vajrayana spiritual practitioners. Their lofty words fill the sky. But even if they claim to be virtuous and excellent, they are still of the demonic lineage. I remember there is such a verse, which means to say that in the degenerate age, there are some people in this context who do not truly possess or cultivate bodhicitta, yet many of them proclaim themselves to be Vajrayana practitioners or Chan practitioners. They claim to have attained realization and so on, making it all sound very impressive. Their lofty teachings, spoken aloud, seem to fill the entire sky, appearing extremely profound. But no matter how well they even communicate with others or what others may choose to call you, no matter how much praise you get, in reality, actually, because they lack bodhicitta, his teachings are truly no different from mysterious magic. This is stated very clearly. In summary, Khenpo and Gakchung also taught this way. Many other masters' teachings are also like this. To determine whether someone is a demonic teacher or a virtuous teacher, you must see whether they possess bodhicitta. Naturally, this kind of bodhicitta, before one gets clairvoyance, it may be difficult to truly know. However, you can very carefully and attentively observe and watch this master's actions in order to find out, You can see whether they genuinely have an altruistic mind in their continuum. If everything they do is only for self or for their own sect, then it may not be good, and you must continue to observe. If their actions truly and genuinely benefit sentient beings in a meaningful way, then such a virtuous and trustworthy teacher can be relied upon. Therefore, the only way to distinguish a so-called demonic teacher is, in fact, by using bodhicitta as the true standard. The fourth point is specifically about laziness and indolence, in particular as it relates to this topic. Even though one longs to study and practice the true Dharma, there is not the slightest diligence. Such lazy people are always slacking off, procrastinating again and again, and will absolutely never be able to fulfill their aspiration to practice the Dharma. Indeed, we need to carefully examine each of the aforementioned freedoms, checking for any obstacles. In fact, our entire practice can be ruined by them. Laziness, although we really want to learn some Dharma to gain some knowledge of liberation, there is no diligence at all. Every day we are absolutely, especially unmotivated and lazy and slack off. At first we tell ourselves, I must be diligent. But as soon as we simply go home and sleep, we just can't get up in the morning and remain lazy all the time. People like this are always procrastinating in their studies and pursuit of knowledge. Let me sleep well today and recite tomorrow. Let me rest today, and in a couple days I'll get to it. Tomorrow and tomorrow, how many tomorrows there are. In the end, they just keep putting things off and off. By the time death comes, perhaps they haven't accomplished any Dharma practice at all. Regarding this kind of laziness, there is a book that says, the laziness and indolence of Westerners and Easterners are different. Eastern people spend every day basking in the sun or lying down. That's their form of laziness. Westerners, on the other hand, are always busy and bustling about. At least that's what the books used to say. But nowadays, perhaps there's not much real difference between East and West. People living in cities are always busy, yet still somehow lazy in their own way. People living in the mountains are often lazy by sleeping in every day. This kind of laziness, in fact, really does have a truly significant and noticeable impact on one's spiritual practice. And the way it develops over time, we must think about the merits of practicing the Dharma. Also, to counteract laziness, you need to contemplate impermanence. In short, reflect on the impermanence of everything. Especially when it comes to your own spiritual practice, there is no permanent opportunity. How could you afford to be lazy? For example, if someone tends to be overly talkative, they should ask themselves, why am I being so verbose? There's really no need. Spiritual practice is so deeply important, and life is so precious and so short. What's the point of wasting time like this? So for those good at contemplating impermanence, they manage their time really well every day. But those who struggle with contemplating impermanence, their actions can often reveal this in the way they speak and act in their tone and manner. Therefore, we must absolutely eliminate laziness, completely removing it from our lives. The fifth point is the surfacing of negative karma. For those individuals who are burdened with particularly heavy karmic obstacles, the vast and boundless ocean of negative karma surges forth and billows violently, churning with great force and intensity. Even if they diligently practice the Dharma, they are still unable to give rise to any merit within their own mind stream. They do not realize this is the result of their own negative karma. Instead, they become disheartened, losing hope, and deeply disappointed with the true Dharma. This is what we usually refer to as someone who often has heavy karmic obstacles. There is still a difference between having heavy afflictions and heavy karmic obstacles. Those with deep afflictions are people whose greed, anger, and ignorance are strong. Those with heavy karmic obstacles may not show it in this life, but are people whose negative karma from previous lives is extremely severe. For such people, the ocean of negative karma from past lives often surges forth, leaving them with no freedom at all. He often thought from time to time that he should practice diligently to truly improve, but in their mind stream, they simply cannot generate even a bit of enthusiasm or diligence for practice. Yet they have no idea that this is actually the result of the karma they created in previous lives. They might even think that perhaps this Dharma is not very good, or that this teacher is not very good, because after practicing for such a long time, they still don't feel anything at all, not even a little. In fact, when it comes to studying the Dharma, we need to have long-term devotion and reliance. This is very important. When a saint like the revered Asanga Bodhisattva was studying at the renowned Juzu mountain 6 years, 9 years, 12 years, did not have a single good dream appear. After spending a significant amount of time on the mountain, he ultimately left, feeling deeply disheartened and discouraged. His spirit weighed down by... It was only then that compassion arose in his heart, and he encountered Maitreya Bodhisattva. Therefore, for ordinary people, the force of karma is very strong. It is difficult for many spiritual experiences to arise together. Whenever you fall ill or encounter various obstacles during your practice, you should understand that this relates to your past lives. It is very likely that due to the extraordinary blessings and power of this Dharma, the karmic results that were supposed to manifest in future lives are all appearing in this very life. Because people in this life look down on you, the Diamond Sutra also states, that is because people in this life look down on you, and the negative karma from previous lives is thereby eliminated. The experiences that were supposed to occur in future lives will all manifest in this very life. Many negative karmas are thus simply eliminated ahead of time, or for some bodhisattvas with lighter karmic offenses, they may still suffer great harm and distress. The Tibetan and Chinese translations differ slightly, but the meaning is the same. So when we encounter major adversities or obstacles in our practice, we must remember that these are in fact karmic obstacles from previous lives. Don't blame others or complain, so see our own lack of practice. Our own karma is very heavy, so we must diligently repent. It is through repentance that we come to realize the true nature of the mind. Some people have practiced for a very long time, but if their karma is very heavy, some results may not appear. Moreover, some people with heavy karma may sever their connection to the Dharma and leave the practice center. This kind of situation really does happen quite often. Then there are those who are swayed by others, people who are not in control of themselves and end up being subjugated by others. Although they have the wish to practice the Dharma, because they are under the control of others, they do not have the opportunity to practice. Some people truly simply cannot help themselves. It is in fact a very pitiable and unfortunate situation. Some parents don't allow their children to study Buddhism, and some children don't allow their parents to study Buddhism. Some family members do not allow studying Buddhism and even forbid a Buddhist altar at home. Nowadays, there are many, many remarkable stories out there. In our Tibetan region, basically, as long as someone studies the Dharma, their family will do their best to support them. If they don't support it, others will talk about them or laugh at them. So perhaps, just maybe, for the sake of saving face, some people will at least outwardly express praise. But in the world, if you truly do not have this kind of freedom in your life, even though you have the wish to practice, you are often controlled by others. Some leaders and officials do not allow people to study Buddhism, so those under them are quite pitiful. But what exactly should these people do? They must find a way forward. A Dharma master in the Han region once said that if you want to study Buddhism, there is always a way. This is the case. If you truly have the intention, you can even study quietly, even in secret. You can learn through all kinds of different methods and approaches. If it really doesn't work, then leave that kind of environment. If your parents constantly control you and don't allow you to study Buddhism, then when the time comes, you should make things clear to them. Tell them, please, don't regret it. I will leave you now. Goodbye. And then never pay attention to them again. This is also an option. In the next life, I will repay your kindness. But my studying Buddhism is not an act of ingratitude. I will dedicate my merits to you sincerely. So for some monastics, there really is no other way. In the end, the only thing left is to dedicate merits to them silently in this way. Many sutras and treatises also say that if there is truly no other way, you can only leave them. Then you can live a free and unrestrained life of spiritual practice. The seventh adverse condition, seeking pleasure and rescue from fear. For food and clothing in this life, or because of fear of other disasters, and thus become Buddhists because they do not have unwavering and deep faith in the true Dharma. Once old habits resurface and former tendencies reemerge, they will return to previous ways and engage in improper conduct. Some people, perhaps at the very beginning of their practice, do so to eat well and dress well, such motivations. Or they are afraid that all kinds of disasters and adverse conditions might befall them at any time or place. With such a mindset, they begin to study and practice Buddhism. But because they do not understand the profound meaning of the Dharma and lack a firm and unshakable conviction, so once the conditions are right in their lives, or their previous habits begin to resurface again, it is very easy for such people to revert to their old ways. Some monastics, because various adverse circumstances arise at home, temporarily develop a superficial sense of renunciation and become ordained. But because they have not truly understood the teachings of Buddhism, later when they encounter their old friends or acquaintances, perhaps unexpectedly, at that point, they gradually return to their original previous state, just as they were before. Breaking precepts and leaving monastic life happen because Buddhism has not truly taken root in their hearts. To sum up, it is very important for Buddhism to become integrated into one's heart. You must truly experience its deep taste if you haven't. No matter how much you engage in superficial or symbolic activities, when the time comes and adverse circumstances arise, you simply won't be able to cope. Therefore, you must do everything you can to counteract this. You must give rise in your mind to renunciation or to the altruistic bodhicitta. The 8th point is pretending to practice the Dharma. Some practitioners, greedy for wealth, fame, and gain, put on a sanctimonious appearance. Although they tend to put on airs and behave as if they are practitioners in front of others, what they seek in their hearts is nothing more than the benefits of this present life. This is 1,000 miles away from the true path to liberation. These kinds of people, on the surface, outwardly try extremely hard to appear as genuine practitioners, but in reality, many people in the world have all sorts of ulterior motives. They crave material possessions, fame, and personal gain. In front of others, they deliberately feign a sense of dignity and pretend to be extremely proper and respectable practitioners. Some do this to get donations. Nowadays, we also hear about all kinds of such situations. All of these are extremely far from true liberation. The above 8 types of people have no opportunity to practice the authentic Dharma. All right, we'll stop here for now.
Om